On November 7, 1940, a bridge started twisting in the wind. Not bouncing, not swaying, twisting, rolling like a ribbon, its two halves rotating in opposite directions, the road deck heaving 28 feet into the air before slamming back down. It had been open for just 4 months. Thousands of people had driven across it. They called it Galloping Gertie. They thought it was funny, until it ripped itself apart and fell 195 feet into the freezing water below. This is the story of how arrogance, budget cuts, and a theory that everyone trusted built a bridge that was doomed from the very first day. To understand why this bridge failed, you have to understand why it was built in the first place. In the 1930s, the Tacoma Narrows was a major obstacle. The Puget Sound Navy Shipyard sat on one side in Bremerton. McChord Airfield and Fort Lewis sat on the other, near Tacoma. The only way across was a ferry, slow, unreliable, and at the mercy of some of the fastest tidal currents in North America, water moving at over 8.5 miles per hour. For years, people wanted a bridge, but it seemed impossible. The water was over 200 feet deep, the crossing was enormous, and the Great Depression had strangled any appetite for expensive public works. Private bridge developers said the traffic was too low. Toll revenue would never cover construction. The Public Works Administration and the Reconstruction Finance Corporation both said no. But by the late 1930s, the world was changing. War was brewing in Europe. Hitler had marched into Austria. Japan had invaded China. The Roosevelt administration was quietly rearming, and it saw the strategic value of connecting McChord Airfield to the Bremerton Naval Shipyard. The bridge was, in the words of historians, primarily a military necessity. So the money came, but it came with strings attached. The state's lead engineer, Clark Eldridge, had a design ready. It was conventional, proven, and solid. A 2,600-foot center span, stiffening trusses 25 feet deep, 4-lane roadway. Estimated cost $11 million. But the federal government had hired their own man. Leon Moisseiff was one of the most respected bridge engineers in America. He had consulted on the Golden Gate Bridge, the George Washington Bridge, and the Manhattan Bridge. He was the pioneer of something called deflection theory, the idea that a suspension bridge didn't need heavy stiffening trusses. The weight of the deck and cables alone could provide enough structural strength. You could build bridges lighter, narrower, and cheaper. Moisseiff told the Public Works Administration that he could cut the cost from $11 million to about $6 million. The federal government loved that number. They approved the funding, but they required Washington State to use Moisseiff's design. The state's own engineers were horrified. They called Moisseiff's plan, quote, fundamentally unsound. The design made the bridge lighter and narrower than any suspension bridge ever built. But the money came with Moisseiff's name on it, so the project went forward. Here's what Moisseiff changed. Instead of Eldridge's 25-foot deep open trusses, Moisseiff used solid steel plate girders only 8 feet deep. Instead of a 4-lane width, the bridge had just 2 lanes, 39 feet between the cables. The center span stretched to 2,800 feet, the third longest in the world. The ratio of the girder depth to the span length was 1 to 350. No bridge had ever been built that thin and that long. For comparison, the Golden Gate Bridge had a ratio of 1 to 168. The George Washington Bridge was 1 to 120. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge was, by any measure, the most flexible suspension bridge ever constructed.